So today is the next day when I training my English speaking by talking on some topic that is interesting for me and where I can use my active English vocabulary to practice my smooth and fluent and quick telling with the words I know. It's like the Lego constructor, I think. So when you have the pieces that you can use, and using your imagination, you can create anything like a dinosaur, a house, a building, a man, a flower with these pieces, but because they are quite cubical, yeah. Some of the figures that you can make will be far from the real representation of the image in your head. Like the most simple, the most similar image or construction will be for the buildings, because the buildings are usually with a flat, square, surfaces, walls, and the roof. So it's quite natural. Well, actually, when Lego was first created in something like 1967 or even earlier, the first set of Lego was intended to build such types of buildings, and there were some catalogs of possible constructions that you could make from this Lego set, and they all were about building some particular buildings. And later they added these famous Lego persons, and then in 90s and 20s they created some particular Lego sets for thematic constructions, like the fantasy medieval castles with dragons, with knights, and with horses, and they produced the special elements for these constructions, and these elements fitted perfectly for the theme, but you couldn't create anything else from those elements except for this particular structure in the fantasy world that they were designed for. And later I looked into some new Lego catalogs, and I saw that they even created the sets for movies like Avengers or Avatars, when people could get the Lego set and construct and assemble this particular I don't know what is it, toy for this using these instructions, and then they could put this toy on the shelf and look at it, because with this specific details you can't create anything else. And so the advantage of this specific something, that you can create the things from the movies or from some particular area that looks quite close to what you want to do. And the disadvantage of this approach is that they are only for creating something in the specific area. And with this earlier approach about building just buildings, the good part of it was that you can create anything you want, and it will be the tree or an animal or a car or a person in your imagination, with the support of these elements that would create the outline for your figure. But because the imagination is the key point. It's like you look at the sky, at the clouds, and you see different figures. And these figures are not the real representations of the images in your head, but you kind of create these figures with your imagination. The same goes with this early purpose of Lego, when you create different figures with the elements, and then you kind of set the texture for this skeleton with your imagination. And using this analogy, I can say that now I have some English vocabulary that is the building blocks for this earlier version of Lego constructor, and I can create anything with these words. But to get some texture, I need some let's say imagination, something that I can't produce with these words, or But to make more specific topics, I need to learn more specific vocabulary, and in that case I can only work with those areas that my vocabulary is intended for. So now I'm working at the field of using my active vocabulary, practicing to get new words. No, practicing to get enough words to express the idea in my head, even if I don't know the exact word for this idea. And it's like it was with from the brilliant arm or the brilliant hand movie, when the guy broke his hand and they put some material substance over his hand, and they hid some jewels and coins within this material, and this was the way to smuggle this jewelry into the Soviet Union. And the best way to describe all this stuff is to use the right English word, and I checked this word after I recorded a video on this topic, and the correct word is a cast for the arm, for the hand. Cast for the hand, they put a cast for his hand and they hid some jewels into this cast. But to learn to find this word in the first hand, I needed to get access to some, let's say, medical vocabulary, which is for the everyday use, not just like different diseases which are quite let's say popular in Russian language, but they are more for doctors than for the ordinary people. But some particular elements, let's say, of the human body, like intestines, stomach, lungs, eyes, teeth, all this stuff is used in the everyday speech, and some elements of the first aid, like put this cast on your hand, let's say sprain the ankle, and the joints, the muscles, the skin, all this stuff, with which people usually encounter during their life, because most of the people broke something like their hands, or they had friends who broke their hands or legs, something like that, and lots of people have poor sight, and all of the people go to the dentist, and the doctor feels the cavity with the feeling, and all this stuff is necessary to express the everyday but kind of specific vocabulary, and it's kind of hard to find all these words and to get them into let's say one particular list. And the best option maybe is to after acquiring all these words, is to create some text that will include all these words in the logical sentences, and then to learn the text. And this way you kind of learn all the these particular words which are not very specific, and you learn them in the topic, because brain is the, let's say, device in your head that works the best with some whole picture, the whole system. And to incorporate new knowledge into your brain, you need to put some new piece of knowledge within the existing system of knowledge in your head, and this is the best way to get to the new knowledge when you need it, because of these links that exist between the pieces of knowledge that are active for you and to which you are used to, or you used to, and the new knowledge. And later the different links from the existing knowledge, the existing pieces of knowledge, to the new pieces of knowledge will be created when you use the new knowledge. And the more links are between your active, let's say, vocabulary and your new vocabulary, the more uses you can find of these new words. Something like that. And maybe at some point later I will start to first collect these specific words from some specific areas, and then to maybe create this text to learn them by heart using these particular words. This will be an interesting experience, and it will be quite hard because it's like writing your own stories, essays, and I'm not good at writing the new stories because I am good at taking the existing stories and maybe combining them into some new picture, like taking the existing elements of constructor and using them to create some new something new, but looking at some existing design. I can't imagine something in my head that is absolutely new and created. And but writing this story that uses these specific words is more about creating something new than putting the existing knowledge together in some different places. Okay, so this is my goal for the next, I don't know, maybe months, 2, 3, or when after I practice enough this topic. Most of these topics are made without any preparation from my side. I just decide what idea I want to talk about in this particular topic, and then I start talking, and some associations come into my mind, and I use these associations and express the next topic and then the next, and like with this particular topic, I didn't think about using Lego constructor and its catalogs from 1960s and from 2000 as the example of creating some texts from your active vocabulary. But this is very useful analogy, and it shows very simple but powerful way how your brain works, how you can use these words to create something interesting for you. Okay, that's it. Well, I was going to talk about CrossFit, so I'm going to do this now. And again, I don't have any outline for this topic. I'm just going to start talking, and later to find, to discover something in my mind, in my memory, that I want to talk about, and then go further and further until I reach some time limit and stop recording this video. And maybe somewhere in the future I will re-record the video about CrossFit, because now I will remember some facts about it, and then I'll just use them in more interesting, appropriate structures and manner. And as I said somewhere before, it's better for me to remember the topics, something that I was interested in a long time ago, by talking about it. So the first time is like the test run. It's more about getting all the knowledge from my mind, and this knowledge comes naturally when I start to talk, because I use some particular point, and then I find a link to the next point and to the next, and at some more moment in time I understand that I discovered lots of points that were connected by different links, and I couldn't just discover them by my will, but it was more like spontaneous discovery of existing stuff inside my memory. So let's go. I discovered the CrossFit for myself in 2016. It's like one blogger that I kind of watched his videos, and he met another guy who practiced this CrossFit, and I kind of googled this stuff and discovered this CrossFit industry, CrossFit type of sports that was created, I think, in the beginning of 2000, and then in 2011 were organized the first CrossFit Games, which is the analogy for Olympic Games, when the certified sportsmen from all different countries, about 40 countries, they participated in the CrossFit tournaments in their countries, and then the winners were gathered together in this annual CrossFit Games, and they participated in several steps of this tournament, and then the winner was decided, and the first three winners get the prize money and the World CrossFit the recognition of the CrossFit fans in the world. So I was lucky enough that in 2016 the games had the format which was about putting all the competitions on YouTube, and there were competitions like regional competitions when for USA was divided into 5, I think, regions, and from the west to the east, and in these regions some athletes, CrossFit athletes, participated, and then I don't remember exactly, maybe the first 5 athletes from each region were got the ticket to the finals, CrossFit Games finals, and there was the division between the male competitions and the female competitions, because they all had the same type of exercises, but the requirements to pass to the finals were lower for the women, because naturally they are weaker than the men. But again, 5 men and 5 women from each region were allowed to participate into the CrossFit Games final, and then all the, let's say, 40 sportsmen in male category and 40 sportsmen in female category, they participated in the finals, and there were different types of competitions, exercises, because CrossFit's philosophy is about being fit in different areas of physical exercises, physical activities. So there was running across some open landscape. Yeah, there was swimming in some sea that was near the place where CrossFit Games were held. It was riding the bike with some obstacles. It was doing exercises with the dumbbells, with what else? Doing push-ups, pull-ups, squats, handstand push-ups, and other stuff. And the whole CrossFit Games, they usually took part in August, maybe in 3 days of the first week in August, like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And there were participants in these games that started from 2011, from the first game, and and there were other guys who only were allowed to participate in the CrossFit Games in this year. So it was kind of interesting to watch their progress, because different people got the first place in different competitions. But there were guys who were the first or the second during almost all the competitions, and these guys eventually won the games. Like they took the first, the second, and the third place. And in 2016, Matt Fraser won the CrossFit Games, and he was the guy who came second last year and the year before the last year. So basically he was the second for 2 consecutive years, and then he came the first at last, and then he continued to participate in these CrossFit Games, and he was the first for the next year and the next. So he became the first male CrossFit CrossFit athlete who took the first place during 5 consecutive years: 2016-17, 18-19, and 20. 2 years before, there was a guy who won during 4 consecutive years. It was like, let's say, 12, 13, 14, 15. 12, 14. I'm not sure. Okay, 12, 14, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, yeah, that's right. And in his final year, he was the first, and Matt Fraser was the second. So all the CrossFit fans thought that Matt Fraser will win the next CrossFit Games, because that's CrossFit athlete who was 4 times the champion. He retired from this particular competition, but the next year Matt Fraser lost to the guy who participated in earlier games but didn't get the prize places. And in this 2015, this guy won the first place. Yeah, and Matt Fraser was the second again. So he decided to win the third game where he participated, and he did it, and he won the next 5 games in the row, and then he retired from these games. So I came to this CrossFit stuff when he won his first championship, and then I watched him in 2017 and 2018 when he won the games. Then I was interested in this whole process, and I found on YouTube the materials that were possible to watch, and I watched the games of the 14, and the previous elements of videos that were available for the games and also for the regional competitions. So I watched the regional competitions for every game in 2017, for every region, for the male and for the female category, and I watched it during eating, so it wasn't the big investment of time into watching this stuff. So it was kind of interesting for me, and it wasn't just a waste interest, because I learned some exercises that I wanted to perform at home. Like I wanted to learn do this handstand walking, because I could do some handstand against the wall, and even some handstand without wall for about 30 seconds when I kind of pushed myself off the wall, pushed my feet off the wall when I was in this handstand position, and sometimes I could hold this position for 30 seconds, but I wasn't successful in getting into this handstand position without any like wall, from the floor, because the basic requirement for this CrossFit athletes was to get into the handstand position from the ground, but they don't need to stand on the two hands. They just needed to walk forward, and it's kind of easier to walk than to keep your balance. But I wasn't successful in both exercises, not just keeping the balance, not just walking on my hands, but I succeeded in doing this knee feet toe to bar abdominals exercise, because I watched them doing this in the tutorials of this exercise that I watched over the internet. The guys who practiced calisthenics, they taught to do this exercise with perfect straight legs, like when you sit on the floor and your legs are straight in front of you, and you need to bend your body forward and to touch kind of your legs with your forehead. So basically you need to do the same holding the bar, but this time you don't bend forward your head, you just move your legs to your head. And because it is impossible for me to do this type of stretching exercise, because I can't bend quite low with my body to my legs. I can't do this toe to bar abdominal exercise with straight legs, but for the CrossFit games it wasn't necessary to keep your legs straight. Lots of guys didn't have such type or such kind of stretching, so they just kept the legs bent in knees, but it was enough for them to touch the bar with their toes. So I lowered the standard for me in this exercise and was quite successful with it ever since, because the idea is not keeping the straight legs but to touch the bar with your toes, because you get enough tension and exercise for your abdominals and for your back. The same goes with the one leg squat. The guys from calisthenics videos learn to do this perfect way when you keep your foot straight on the ground without lifting your heel, and you just squat using your left leg, and your right leg is perfectly straight in front of you without touching the floor. Again, I don't have enough stretching power in my legs, so it was difficult for me, but I managed to stand on the chair. This way I could keep my leg straight without putting too much effort into the stretching process, and keep my foot flat on the surface of the chair. But the CrossFit guys, they did this one leg squat exercises on the floor, but they had the other leg bent in the knee, like they did with the toe to bar leg raises. Yeah, this way they didn't touch the floor with the free leg, but they didn't put much effort into keeping the leg straight if they had the problem with the stretching. Of course, this guy, Matt Fraser, who won the championship for 5 years in a row, he was the previous Olympic sportsman who had in lifting the bar. I don't know, not dumbbell, but this big thing with the discs, the bar with discs, and he was in the Olympic team from the USA. So he had wonderful stretching. He did all the exercises perfectly. His legs were always straight, and he made squats with the straight legs. But he is a professional, and most of the guys who came to CrossFit, they came from different activities, like from hockey or from American football, so they don't have so they didn't have this type of stretching, and it was alright. The requirement was to perform with some particular key points, like without touching the floor with your free leg, and it wasn't about keeping your free leg perfectly straight. So I learned some of these key points from the CrossFit games, and I continue to use them in my everyday exercises even now. Like, for example, in calisthenic videos, the guys taught to do, let's say, 10 straight, 10 perfect one leg squats on your left leg, and then 10 perfect one leg squats on your right leg. And it was possible, I could do this, but only at some peak performance. And CrossFit guys needed to perform enough one leg squats in a row, like 50, but the requirement was to change the leg after each squat, like one leg squat on the left leg, then one leg squat on the right leg. This counted as 2, then left leg, right leg, 4. And this way they needed to perform 50 consecutive squats. They could make pauses between these squats, but they couldn't change a type of exercise until they reach the necessary limit of these repetitions. And I started to do this one leg squats, changing my leg after each repetition, and I learned that the effect of engaging necessary muscles in my legs is quite the same as with the 10 consecutive repetitions for one leg and then 10 consecutive repetitions for the other leg. But it was more easier to perform, so you get the same, let's say, load, pressure, or something that you need to put on your legs during your exercise, but with less stress of performing this in a row or in some perfect form. And that's the benefit I took from the CrossFit. And then I also watched some women competitions, and there were women who participated in many CrossFit games, like 5 years in a row, but no one of them won lots of consecutive finals, like Matt Fraser did. But at some point, the Australian woman came to CrossFit, and she won at least 6 consecutive finals during 6 years. So she became the most successful CrossFit athlete in all categories. But Matt Fraser continues to be the most successful man athlete. Anyway, it was interesting to watch the way the women performed the exercises, because the women kind of weaker than men by the definition. So I am more qualified in the category of this woman's exercise, because I couldn't perform the exercises that the top CrossFit men could, but I couldn't perform lots of exercises that top women CrossFit athletes could do either. But it was interesting to watch what type of weights, of loads they can handle. Like, women performed these squats with the barbell with lots of weight on this barbell, and they had very perfect stretching, because women are usually more stretchable, flexible than the men, so they could perform these sit-ups much better, but with less weights. But I couldn't perform the exercises the way women could, and even with this I couldn't use the same weights they did, because I just couldn't. I didn't have the potential to do the same type of difficult exercises. Anyway, I learned a lot about the type of exercises different people could perform, not just the perfect exercises that some top calisthenic guys taught you to do on YouTube, and then you can find out that these guys can perform almost all the yoga poses because they are quite flexible and they can stretch quite well. So yeah, and then I wanted to continue with this CrossFit Games. It was quite interesting for me to watch the regional competitions and then watch the CrossFit Games, but the creator of these games, he changed the whole thing in 2019. Yeah, and it was the first in 2018 he changed the way the participants from different countries were gathered together and to participate in the final. In the previous games, all, let's say, 40 sportsmen competed against each other during all the days, and then the guys with the maximum numbers of points were named as the winners. But in 2018, it was the type of game when in the first game, out of 40 sports, in the first game there were all, let's say, 100 sportsmen from different countries of the world who participated in the game. But out of the first game, only, let's say, 80 sportsmen were allowed to continue. And from the second game, only 60 sportsmen could continue this competition. And to the real finals of this CrossFit Games, maybe only 20 sportsmen, 20 athletes could reach. So the last three exercises were performed by these 20 athletes, and it wasn't the same feeling as with all this massive amount of people in all the competitions. So, and I think there were no regional competitions in 2018, just some individual recording when people performed some requirements and send the record of their performing to this CrossFit game, let's say, authority, and then this authority chose the best performance and invited these people. So the spirit of this lots of competitions during regionals and then during CrossFit Games. They existed only in 2016, 2017 and 2015, but in 2014 there were only videos about the CrossFit Games finals, but there were no videos about CrossFit Games regionals. So there were only 3 years of these videos that gave the full picture of the performances of all athletes in all categories, men's and women's, during all this period of time. In May, I think, they performed regionals, and in August they performed CrossFit Games. So for 3 consecutive years, 15, 16 and 17, this was the best source of watching when you can watch it on YouTube. In 2018 there were changes in the rules. I didn't like them much, but in 2019 there was Corona pandemia, and all this audience cheering stuff was removed from the games, and the athletes participated in kind of without any audience, without any cheering, just between themselves, and there were no much videos of this on YouTube. So my interest was kind of lowered during 18 year, and in 19 I just dropped watching this stuff. In 20 there was the peak of coronavirus, and I just dropped the stuff, and it exists. CrossFit Games continue to gather participants and audience, and now after coronavirus was defeated, they are still the kind of sports when different athletes could participate. But I lost my interest in the stuff. It's not like these CrossFit Games is not the football with kind of consistent rules over the last 50 years or something. And when I watched World Championship in 1998 with the Brasilia winning the World Cup, and when I watched the final of 2023 when Argentina with Messi won the World Cup against France, the feeling was kind of the same. The rules were the same, almost everything was the same, but CrossFit Games changed through the years of the existence from 2011, and I think these changes were not so cool, but the discipline itself is quite interesting because of these exercises in different areas of physical readiness, activity, and some of exercises can be used in your everyday life, like toe to bar, abdominal exercises, or this one leg squats, without stretching your leg to perfectly. So I think this is all I wanted to say about CrossFit stuff, and I don't think that I will remember more about it to talk about, because I wanted to talk about different sportsmen, different athletes, but really I don't remember the names now. I didn't watch CrossFit Games for 5 or 6 years, so I don't remember their names. I remember the faces, but I don't know the biographies. I liked to watch them performing different exercises, but this is not about talking about these exercises. It's about watching these exercises and enjoying this competitive spirit when one guy performed 50 repetitions while the other guy performed only 4 repetitions. So there is not much of talking about this CrossFit anymore, and I think I talked everything I wanted to talk about in this video. So that's all for today.